Hello, welcome to our last video for Unit 7.
Woohoo!
Yay! So you guys are going to be working with equations again. Today we're going to focus on a different type of equation. In yesterday's video we talked about standard form. Today we're going to be talking about general conic form, which is similar to the multiple ways we can write the equations of a line, you know, point, slope, standard form, slope, intercept. So it's just two different ways of writing the same equation. We're going to be converting from one to the other today.
You know what the really crazy thing is?
What?
So we messed around a little bit with this whole idea of completing the square their last round in math. Algebra 1 for some of them.
Right.
Today we're going to complete a square to find a circle.
We're really trying to confuse you guys, aren't we?
I think that's
Complete
cool.
the square to graph a circle.
I like it.
Ooh, aren't you guys so excited?
No, they're not.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I can't wait. All right, let's get started. So you need to be open to page 74 in your notebook. You are going to be doing a little bit of review of graphing circles. So, of course, you need your compass. No freehanding, please. Use your compass. And then if you want to have your calculator, I don't think there's anything where you have to have it, but you may want it just in case.
Agreed. So, for my algebra friends, good news. Those of you that like algebra more than you like geometry, today is your day.
Today is the day for you. Definitely lots and lots of algebra. Yay! All right, so let's get started. The first thing is the two forms. So standard form, you guys should remember standard form has HK as our center and R as our radius. So this is actually the form we like. Similar to y equals mx plus b, slope intercept. We like that because it tells us everything we need to know to graph a line. This tells me everything I need to graph a circle. Well, this really long, ugly one, general conic form, it's very simple to take this equation and turn it into slope intercept on the brain now, into standard form. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to take this and we're going to convert it into our nice, friendly standard form. And we're going to do that through something called completing the square, which is the algebraic method for converting general conic into standard form. Are you ready to try?
I am.
All right, let's do this. So the first thing you guys are going to do is in example 1 on page 74, you are going to basically reorder everything. You want to group the x terms together and your y terms together. So I'm going to be very specific about this, so please listen to me as I do this. When you do your x terms, you're going to do x squared minus 6x. I want you to leave a space. If you have highlighters, you can maybe put a little highlighter spot there, but you definitely want to leave a space right there. And then you're going to be grouping your y terms together. So we have a positive y squared and a positive 8y. And then after your 8y, I want you leaving a space. So right here we're going to leave a space. And then you have that plus 9. That plus 9, if you look at the top of your page, look back at your standard form. Where does the r go? Where does the constant number go?
It goes on the other side of the equal sign.
So if you want, I typically just move it right away. If you want to do it then, or if you want to write it here, we're going to end up moving that over to the other side. I'm just going to move that to the top. So, all right. What you are going to do next is you're going to complete the square. So to complete the square, you are going to look at the number in your x terms, which is a what? We have a negative 6. This is the process you are going to undertake every time. You're going to take that number and you're going to cut it in half. And what is half of negative 6?
Negative 3.
And you are going to square it. So negative 3 times negative 3 will be a positive 9. So we are going to put a positive 9 in that blank spot I gave you. And what you do to one side of the equation, you always have to remember to do to the other side.
So for those of you who want to write down steps, you're going to write down, take 1/2 of the coefficient of x Then take that number and square it,
And it will always be positive.
and then add that to both sides. The reason you're adding it to both sides is because we want to keep the equation still balanced and the same, and adding 9 to both sides does not change the equation.
So now what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what's going to go in this blank spot. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so you should have done 8 divided by 2, which is 4, and 4 squared is 16. Now, don't forget that if you add 16 to the left side of the equal sign, you have to also add it to the right side. The next step that I want you guys to do is take this constant number, and we are going to move it to the other side. So how would I move this plus 9?
Subtract it.
Subtract it to both sides. Alright, so now our next step is to basically factor this. Now here's the nice thing. When I say factor, some of you probably start biting your nails and freaking out, because I know that is always a hard unit in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 for that matter.
But they've pretty much already done it. They just don't know it.
So I will just tell you that when we're completing the square, when you complete the square, the factoring is super easy, okay? If you think about it, you know you're going to have 2 parentheses. I'm going to do this one time because the pattern of which what we're going to do, it's always going to work out like this. So x times x is going to go to the beginning of both parentheses because that is how you would get x squared when you multiply. Then you have to think about what factors would I get to get 9. We have 1 times 9 and we have 3 times 3. Between those, which could we add to get a 6? Has to be 3 and 3. And then that 6 is negative, so what would both of these need to be? Negative. So if we were to multiply this out, we would get the x squared minus 6x plus 9.
Wait a minute, Ms. Weichel. If you remember, we did 1/2 of the coefficient of x, and that was -3.
That is correct. That is always going to be the number that we use.
Wait a minute,
And
so
you are always going to have the same thing twice, which means you're going to get that.
wait. So on the other side, does that mean it's going to factor into, let's see, 1/2 of the coefficient of y was +4. So is it going to be y plus 4 squared?
Yes, it is.
That is, it's already done. I don't even have to think.
What I typically tell my students is, so this gets square rooted. The square root of x squared is x. Whatever sign is in front of the middle term is the sign we use in the parentheses. And then if you cut that number in half, that's what's going to go here every time. I like my students to actually figure out this step because that reminds them to add it to the other side. So again, basically what you're doing, let me get a highlighter going. So hopefully answer your questions. You are going to square root x squared. That's what's going to go here. The sign in front of the middle term is what goes here. And then if you square root 9, what do you get? 3. For my y's, if you square root y squared, what do you get? Y. What sign is in front of the middle term? A positive sign. And then what's the square root of 16? 4. Every time. That's what's going to happen. 100% of the time. And then the rest of the equation is the right side, which is just basically a bunch of adding. What's -9 plus 9?
Nothing.
And then what's nothing plus 16?
16.
There you go. So there's your standard form. You have x minus 3 squared added to y plus 4 squared is equal to 16. And what that tells me is I know my center now. Remember, the center, if it's negative here, the center's positive. And if it's positive in the equation, it's negative as a center. So your center is at 3, -4. And your radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. So if you want, you could go ahead and actually write that down. You guys have some room off to the side that this circle has a center at 3, -4 and a radius of 4. Not too bad, right?
I think it's so easy that maybe you should let me try the next one all on my own.
Yep.
And when I unpause the video,
Poof.
my work will match your work.
All right, so go ahead and pause the video and see if you can use the completing the square method to figure out the standard form equation of that next problem. Good luck. All right, so here you go. Here's the poof, the magic. So I grouped my x's together. Then what is half of -2 squared? A +1. My y's, half of -4 squared, would be a +4. Remember, those are always going to be positives. I added my 20 up at the top to the other side, and then I add 1 and 4 to the left side, so I have to add 1 and 4 to my right side. Now for completing the square, square root, sine, square root. So x minus 1. For the y's, it's square root, sine, square root, so y minus 2. And then on the right side, 20 plus 1 plus 4 gives me 25. Done.
Wait a minute, Miss Weichel, I'm confused, and I think students might be confused too. You have +1 and +4 in your equation, but when you wrote the equation for the circle, you have -1 and -2. I'm so confused.
Right, so remember, this number right here represents two numbers that are being added together, and this represents two numbers being multiplied together. So remember when I had two of them, we had x and x. And then to get a +1, we know it's going to be a 1 and a 1. Well, 1 plus 1 is 2, but I need it to be a negative. So remember, that would mean that both of these would be negative. So x times x is x squared. -1x plus -1x would be -2x. And then -1 times -1 would give me that +1.
So I'm really going to have to understand my negatives and what to do with numbers that are negative and positive.
Right. But again, if you guys can remember, whatever the sign in front of that, like, I already know right here by looking at the problem that my parentheses are going to have minus signs because that's what you were given with those coefficients. So that's what should always be carried down.
All right, I think I'm ready to try another one.
All right, so with this one, I'm going to ask you guys to pause it, and I want you to try to do the completing the square, and then I'm going to ask you to go one step further and actually write the center, write the radius, and graph it. So go ahead and pause it, complete the square, and then graph your circle using what we learned in yesterday's video. Okay, so here you go. You should have moved that 8 by subtracting it. Over here, half of -8 would be -4. -4 squared is 16, so 16 is what we're adding to both sides. Half of -2 then squared would be +1, so we add that to both sides. Square root, take the sign, square root becomes x minus 4 in the first set of parentheses. Up here, square root, sine, square root, so y minus 1. And then on the right side, you're just, again, adding, subtracting. -8 plus 16 plus 1 gives you 9. So now let's review what our center will be. If this is x minus h, we know that h must be 4. If this is y minus k, then I know k must be a +1. And then if r squared is 9, well, what's the square root of 9?
3.
So that's the information we're going to use to graph our circle. There's my center. I'm going to open my compass to a length of radius of 3. 2, 3. And I can draw my circle. And there we go. Not too bad, right?
Not too bad.
All right, so next problem. Same thing. I want you to pause it. I want you to write the standard form, and then I want you to graph it. You can try to do the endpoints of the horizontal and vertical diameter, or you can wait till I talk about those.
Before we get started on that next one, Mrs. Weichel, I noticed something a little different, and I just want to make sure I'm good before I try this on my own.
What do you notice?
I noticed that there's no, like, x term. There's an x squared. So I was kind of thinking, since it's not there, that means it's, like, not there. It's, like, 0?
Yes, that would be correct. So when you go to complete the square, you have x squared. There's no other x terms, which means you go right into the y now. So this one's actually a little easier. You don't have to worry about completing the square for your y's.
Okay, I think I'm ready then.
So you're going to do your y squared plus 4y, and then you know the rest. So you know your center is 0 comma something. Now figure out the rest of it.
Is it also okay if right away when I'm setting up my problem to do completing the square, can I just move the 21 right away?
Yes, I would definitely, that's how I do it. I move it right from the problem, so plus 21, plus 21. Yep.
Okay, perfect. I'm ready.
All right, go ahead and pause it. Try it out. All right, so here you go. So we already talked about how x squared is isolated. It's by itself, so your center is at 0. When you complete the square for the y's, you have to take half of 4 and square it. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So you're going to add 4 to both sides, and we talked about how you would move that 21 by adding it to the other side. So x squared is just x squared. Here we're going to do square root, take the sign, square root, so y plus 2, and then right side is 25. So your center is at 0, -2, and your radius is going to be the square root of 25, which is just 5. So here is the circle that you guys should have gotten. So for your horizontal diameter, remember diameter goes through the center of your circle. So if I were to draw a circle through the center horizontally, that basically is what, when I graph my circles, I told you guys can count left or right that many. That's basically your horizontal diameter. So when you're at your center, if you count 5 to the right, you are at 5, -2. From your center, if you go left 5, you are at -5, -2. So those are the end points of your horizontal diameter. Then it's going to be the same for your vertical diameter. If you were to go up 5, you would be at 0, there we go, 0, 3. And then if you were at the center and you go down 5, you would be at 0, -7. Change those colors to match what I did it in. I love my colors. You can actually do this without a graph. It's very easy to do it with a graph because you can just go to the right, go to the left, go up, go down. But without a graph, basically what you're doing, horizontal means your x is changing. So if I go 0 left 5, that's the same as saying 0 -5. 0 -5 would be -5. If I do 0 plus 5, I'm at +5, and that gives me my horizontal answer. For vertical, your y is changing. So if you do -2 minus 5, you're at -7. If you do -2 plus 5, you're at +3. So it's up to you if you like having the picture or just doing it in your head. Remember, if you don't have a picture, though, sometimes it's helpful to know how to do it without it. But if you want to use your graph paper, you can go for it. And there it is. Good questions? Write them down.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
I think one thing that's going to help me, though, is when I'm trying to figure out the endpoints, I think I'm going to write the center down there so I kind of know where I'm starting from, and then I know to deal with my radius going either plus or minus.
Yep. All right. So if you guys want to turn the page,
even if you don't want to,
well, yeah,
we have to.
Turn the page.
All right, let's go.
Go ahead and pause the video and work out example 5. All right, here it is. So you should have grouped your x's together. Half of -6 squared would be 9, because half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. For your y's, you, again, I apparently like 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So remember, if we're adding 9 to the left side and adding 4 to the left side, we had to do that to the right side. To move this +4 over, we had to subtract 4. I don't know why I didn't write that, but I didn't. What am I doing?
Geometry.
Geometry. So we should have moved that 4 over. So then we go to the actual finalization of the completing the square process. So square root, take the sign, square root. So x minus 3 goes in your first parentheses. Square root, sine, square root. So y plus 2. goes in the second parentheses. Right side, -4 plus 9 plus 4 is just 9. So our center would be at +3, -2, because you have to change the signs, and then square root that 9 to get our radius, which is 3. Again, you can graph it, get your horizontal and vertical diameters, or you can do it without the picture like I said. 3 minus 3 is 0. The y wouldn't change if I'm going horizontal. Think translations. If I'm at 3, -2, and I go left 3, that's the same as 3 minus 3, 0. If I'm at 3, -2, and I go right 3, that's the same as saying I'm adding 3 to my x-coordinate. So 3 plus 3 gives me 6. The y does not change. If I were to translate 3, -2 up 3, that would be the same as adding 3 to my y-coordinate. -2 plus 3 is 1. And then if I go down 3 from that center, -2 minus 3 puts me at -5 with the x's not changing. So there you go. That's what you should have gotten.
We gave them a really big graph for a really small circle.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have had them translated all over the place.
Maybe. All right. So that is actually the conclusion of Unit 7.
Yay!
Yay! All right, so how'd you feel about today's lesson? We really just did one thing. I just added in some review problems from the last video. Do you feel like you could, with confidence, convert general conic form into standard form? If you are green, that means I could give you 20 problems and you would get every problem right.
And you wouldn't be stressed about
No
doing
questions.
them because, yeah,
Because you've got the pattern down, you're good.
yeah, no stress.
All right, so if you're not there, what questions do you have? Make sure you include them on your submission tonight. All right. For tomorrow, to get your stamp, your table of contents should be pretty much completely filled out. Pages 62 to 65 should be completely finished. We just completed pages 62 to page
76.
Oh, that's not right. Wait a minute, did I
Hold
do it
on.
wrong?
Yeah, we just completed. Yeah, you're going to need to change the
Oh,
page
I
numbers.
forgot to change this.
Uh-oh.
All right, please hold.
Pages right there.
I think all our pages are right now. Sorry about that. I apparently forgot to edit that.
We're okay now, though. We're good.
We are good now. Yeah. So anyways, by the 17th, which is our next class day, or at least it should be, all your vocabulary words should be done because we just finished the unit. Pages 74 through 76 should actually be the pages to be done. Pages 10 through 19, all your basically everything in your notebook should be done.
Yeah. Yep.
In a nutshell.
With the exception of the review, which that is not technically due until we get back from Thanksgiving.
Right.
So that's not going to be due until December 4th. So you really need to finish up the Unit 7 review as well as the Unit 1 through 6 review and make sure that you are completely done with it, because when we come back from Thanksgiving, you will be taking AZ Merit.
AZ Merit will be the Tuesday we get back from Thanksgiving.
So you'll come back on Monday. We'll hopefully get in a very quick short review because it'll be a half day. And then Tuesday when you come in, we're off.
There we go. All right, so here you have it. Have a good day. Here is your ticket in the door. Again, it is multiple choice. We should see the problem right now with all the choices, and I would like you to, like we did yesterday, treat the multiple choices as questions. Write the standard form of the general conic form that you were given. Write it out and then see if it matches this. If it matches, then circle it. Find the center. If it matches, circle it. This is a select all, I believe, even though I didn't write that. So any of them that are true. I don't remember if there's more than one true answer, but there might be. There might be more than one true. So I would check all of them to see what the true answers are and which ones are false.
And I would like for you to please explain why you said the ones that are false are false. So if you think, for example, B is false, you would need to say
Show me
that
what the actual center is.
the center of the given equation was blah, 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 and is not negative 2, 5.
There you go. All right, well, have a good rest of your day.
And if you're finishing this unit early and you would like to take the final before you go to Thanksgiving break, just let us know and we'll
We have it
schedule
ready to go.
We'll
so.
schedule a day and time.
Yep. All right. Have a good day.